everyone, welcome back to Art Camp. Today is day 3. On the agenda for today we have magnet sets and a collage. So let's just get right into it. First we're going to make our magnet sets using Shrinky Dinks. So I'm going to show you my examples. I made 3 sets to show you guys. The first one is a ladybug, a bee, and a flower. The second one is a koala, a carrot, and a moth. And the third set, I only did 2, and it's a frog and a little carton of strawberry milk. So you can see with each set, I chose similar color schemes. Like for this one, it's mainly green and pink. Here, it's red, pink, blue, yellow, black, and white. This one, it's black, white, orange, green, and gray. For your magnet set, I want you to think about 3 things that you can draw that will have matching colors. While you're thinking about that, let's get out our materials. From your box, you will need this bag with the Sharpie and the 3 magnets. You will also need the thing of glue dots, the same one that we used for the Color Theory moth. Out of your folder of papers, you will need this half sheet that is smooth on one side and rough on the other side. You will also need this sheet that says Shrinky Dink Instructions, but we can actually set this sheet aside for now. From home, you will need colored pencils, a normal pencil, scissors, and possibly some markers. So we're going to move all our stuff to the side besides our pencil and our Shrinky Dink paper. We're going to draw on the rough side, the scratched up side. So you need to fit 3 things on here, and it actually might be kind of a tight fit because later on we're going to put this in the oven and it's going to shrink and get thick like these ones. And so actually this frog was probably this big. So you need to be really, really careful about how you're fitting stuff on here because we want to make sure that our magnets don't shrink too small. So the 3 things that I've decided to draw are a pair of cherries, an egg, and a snail. And I think the colors I'm going to use are yellow, red, green, white, and black. But I really want you guys to make this your own. So choose 3 of your favorite things. If you have trouble drawing them, you can email me and we can even set up a Google Meet so I can walk you through it. Or you can just draw whatever you like to already draw. So I am going to start with my egg because it can fit in this corner over here. So I'm just going to draw really lightly with my pencil because it doesn't erase super great on this paper. Okay, so now that I have my egg, I'm going to do my snail. And then lastly, my cherries. So here you can see that I have my outlines. They're all really basic outlines because the pencil is so difficult to erase on here. So we can go back in with our colored pencils or our markers and put in all those details, but for right now, it's just the outline. So we're going to take our eraser and gently erase the outline. You still want to kind of be able to see where it was and obviously see what you drew, but you don't want any pencil marks to be left on your final product. Now it's time to start coloring. You have to remember when our magnets are done, we're going to be seeing it from the shiny side. So every once in a while I like to flip it over and you can see what my outline looks like from that side. And then when we're coloring, we also need to keep this in mind because if we want to do like small details or highlights or anything like that, those will have to be done first so that they really pop when on this side. So I'm going to start with my egg and I am going to color the white part because that's just going to be a plain white. If you use markers, don't use the washable kind. Colored pencils work the best, but plain markers that aren't washable will also work just fine. Washable markers come off on your fingers too much and don't bake very nicely. Now my white is a little see-through, so I'm going to go back and do another layer. It's important that you keep flipping them over to check what it looks like from the other side. You can kind of see where there are like little empty spots that you might need to go back and fill in that you don't notice on the other side. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to my yellow for the yolk, and I want my egg yolk to have a little bit of dimension. So I'm going to use some orange and do some light shading around the outside, and then I'm going to go back in and do a layer of yellow. Okay, now that I'm happy with these colors, I'm going to move on to the cherry. I am going to start with a dark red and do a little bit of shading on the cherries. You also want to avoid using black on this side because actually we're going to flip it over and outline our different areas of color with a black Sharpie. And I want my cherries to have a little highlight too, so I'm going to take my white and just do a little mark opposite of where my shading is. Next, I'm going to do the green for the stem of the cherries. Now, I actually forgot that I'm going to give all of my things a smiley face, and so I want my egg to have little red cheeks with a smiley face, so I'm gonna go back and put those in. I really should have done them before I did my yellow so that they pop, but it will still be okay. Okay, now you might notice that really the only color in common that my cherry and egg have is red. So I'm gonna fix that on the snail. I am going to use every color that I've used so far just to make sure I have a cohesive set and that all their color schemes go together. Now that I'm done coloring in each of my objects, I'm going to flip over my shrink heating sheet so that I can outline it. We're going to be using a Sharpie on the smooth side because then when it shrinks, it kind of creates a little dimension and I think it makes them look really nice. So I'm going to take my Sharpie and just outline all my shapes. I like to outline with a broken line because I think it looks more natural. So instead of being like one solid line all the way around, there are a couple spaces where there's nothing or there are dots instead. You can kind of see on this one my broken line, and you also will be able to see it better in the Google Classroom. So I'm going to do that, but you can outline it however you would like. Okay, I have all of my outlines done. So now I'm going to take my scissors and cut around the outside of each one. On areas where it's really thin, like around these antennas or around these stems, I am going to leave a little bit of the clear paper. It will show up, you'll be able to see it, but you can see here, like on these antenna, it just turns white, so it doesn't really take away from it. And also, if when you cut around those skinny areas, you cut around them too tight, they'll be so skinny that they just break off. Okay, so now I have all my drawings cut out, so I'm going to get that folder again and take out my Shrinky Dink instructions. And you might want to have an adult or someone older help you with this part because it is a tiny bit tricky and it involves the oven. So I am going to go do this by myself, and I will add a little clip of my Shrinky Dinks baking in the oven, and I will come back when they're ready. Shrinky Dinks are out of the oven, and there are just some things that I wanted to show you up close. So in this egg, right here, you can see my pencil marks. So this is what happens when you don't erase well enough. And actually, most of the time you can't even really see it when you're drawing. They kind of show up after you bake it. So you just want to make sure that you erase really good before you start coloring. And actually, I left mine in the oven for a little bit too long, so you can see here, these are supposed to be white, but they look kind of yellowy and brown. And actually in here too, it's not as noticeable, but it's yellow and brown. So it just starts turning golden brown if you leave it in there longer than the 30 seconds after they flatten. And I left it in there probably 35 seconds on accident, so you can see how quickly it changes from white to this brown color. So you just need to be extra careful and follow the directions exactly. But if you do something similar to what I did, there's a way to fix it. So I'm going to take my white paint in a small brush, and on this side, I'm actually just going to paint over the white because it's dirty and I don't really like those pencil marks. So that's how I'm going to fix those, and I'm actually going to do the same thing for the highlights on here. And if you make a mistake, just email me, let me know, and I can help you come up with a solution. So now that I've fixed the white spots on my Shrinky Dinks, it's time to add magnets. So we're gonna need our glue dots and our magnets. Take your magnets out of the bag, and I'm gonna use one for the snail, one for the egg, and my cherry is actually too small. So I cut up one of my magnets into really small pieces. If your Shrinky Dinks are too small too, you're going to need an adult to help you with this. But they can use either an old pair of scissors or a serrated knife to cut the ceramic magnet down to the size that you need. So you can see, like on this carrot, I just cut the magnet in half. But for the cherry, this is actually 1/8 of the magnet. But I would recommend trying to make them big enough so that you just need to use the big circle magnet. Take your glue dots out of your container and unwrap them. I'm going to start with the egg and the snail because they will also be using a full glue dot, but I'll have to cut it down for the cherry. So I'm going to start by taking my egg, flip it around, see kind of where I want to place my magnet, and then I'm going to stick my glue dot down where I just had my magnet. You're going to press and then peel up the paper part. There we go. And then take your magnet and press with your thumb and hold for 5 seconds. And then you should be good. There's our first one. I'm going to do the snail now. Same thing. And there's my snail. So for the cherry, I'm going to take one of my glue dots and actually make sure that both sides are covered with this paper. And then I'm going to take my scissors and cut my glue dot into 4. So in half, and then in half again. So I'm going to use these 2 tiny fourths of the glue dot. I'll take it, make sure my magnet fits, and then do the same exact thing, except this time you're going to have to be a little more precise because you're working with smaller glue dot, smaller magnet. Once you have your magnets attached, you're finished. You can take them and stick them on your fridge, in your locker, anything metal basically. I can't wait to see all the fun things that you guys do. Make sure you really show off your individuality. I'll see you later today when we make a collage together. Bye!